Hello my friends and welcome. We have the awesome update coming from Sevastopol. Ukraine targeted the Russian Black Sea Marine headquarters in that city. Not just the Sevastopol was targeted today, the other Russian bases in Crimea went under the drone or the rocket attack. But the biggest one was definitely in my home city, Sevastopol. Here we have the scheme where kabooms happened today, so near to Tarhankut, in Bakhchisarai and around Sevastopol, including the main building of the Russian Black Sea Marine Fleet. All of their decisions to use their ships in the Black Sea are taken in that particular building, so probably offices were over there. At least we have the report about it from Crimean publics. What kind of the offices we're gonna speak later in this video. We have many of the videos from the scene. Unfortunately, I cannot publish them on this platform, but I publish them usually on my Telegram channel. So here you can see the command headquarters building, and there is one more cruise missile is going to hit it. So at least there were two of the explosions, which were very precise. Based on this image, we may say that Ukraine again uses the Western weaponry to target Crimean territory. That is officially the Ukrainian one. Russia occupied it and claims that it's Russia. Around a couple of months ago, the Russian Defense Minister Shoigu said that it's a red line to use the Western weaponry in Crimea. Now they don't say that it's the Western weaponry. They again say that they intercepted all of the missiles and those were S-200, the modified versions of ground-to-air missiles. Definitely Ukraine uses that as well, but according to this image, 100% this is the Storm Shadow or Scalp French missile. Sometimes I got the questions from my audience, what resources do I use to get the current information about the situation in Ukraine? Well, I use the Ground News for this purpose. Ground News uses the combination of the expert bias rating systems to give the most comprehensive analysis at the publication level. You may type "war in Ukraine" and click on the link. That will give you the most recent information about what is happening around our topic. For example, the story of the Ukrainian missile strike on the Russian headquarters. This story is being covered widely around media resources. Almost 200 articles were published for the last 24 hours about it. You may check out the article comparison, and here you also may see the political bias distribution. We have the media resources, some of them tend to deviate right or left and some of them central. You may also select them over here. The other feature that I really like about the Ground News is the factuality report. The particular news is based on fact. Definitely Ukraine targeted the Russian headquarters in Sevastopol. We have the video confirmation, so the factuality is pretty much high about this case. You may also see it in the news articles. I also like the map feature over here. It gives you the distribution of the articles based on their origin. So the most articles we have, for example, from the United States of America. And you may compare those, for example, read the articles from the United States, from Ukraine and even Russia. Yes, sometimes I also read the enemy side to get the full picture. They also have the very useful application which you may install on your Android phone or iPhone. The application is user-friendly, so you'll be constantly updated with the current news on your phone. Ground News was founded by the former NASA engineer. They are now the small team based in Ontario, Canada. They're looking to hold the media accountable and provide all sides of the story. They are not funded by the media corporations or big tech. Mainly they are founded by subscribers. It is my personal recommendation for you to subscribe for the Ground News to have the full access for all of the features that they provide, and believe me, they are very useful. So please go to the ground.news/Dennis. The link is in the video description just below. That is how you also support my channel. Now let's go back to the topic. I know this building and I was near many times. This is kind of the historical district, and unfortunately this building was severely damaged, but it gives more profit for Ukraine because there were some of the Russian officers and probably the head of the Russian Black Sea Marine Fleet was exactly at that time in his cabinet, but again the information is coming from the Crimean publics. We need official information about the case. Probably it will appear in a couple of days. And we already have the satellite image, so it was before yesterday and it is today. Building is severely damaged. I think 3 of the missiles hit it at least, because we see many of the spots here, here and over here. Building is almost ruined by fire. Somehow the fire teams were very late to eliminate the fire, so it continued for all the day. I'm sure that Russia lost very important documents and data in that building, since it's the main one they have for their Black Sea Marine Fleet Command. I think that this event was possible because Ukraine eliminated the air defense systems at first, and then they are free to strike the objects in Sevastopol and in the other parts of Crimea. Almost every day Russia loses some of the ships or some of the military infrastructure. They lost at least 6 of the S-400 air defense systems, mostly in Crimea, so you see how the cruise missiles like Storm Shadow really matters for Ukraine. By the way, later this evening one more strike was reported in Sevastopol. It looks like the local power plant was targeted, but we don't have the real confirmation about it, because I know that it's further here behind. The smoke is coming from this place. So what Ukraine wants to achieve by hitting the Russian military infrastructure in Crimea, because Ukraine has many of the hotspots around the front line, so why not to use the cruise missiles to target the Russian tanks or military bases near to the front lines? Why Sevastopol? Well, actually Ukraine tries to achieve 3 of the goals by hitting the Russian Black Sea Marine Fleet. First of all, Russia uses the ships and submarines to hit the Ukrainian infrastructure. First of all, the power plants, power lines. Plus, Russia uses their Caliber cruise missiles that they launch from their ships to target the supply lines for Ukrainian army. So it's crucial for Ukraine to eliminate that threat. And how is it possible to do? By eliminating the command of the Russian Black Sea Marine Fleet. Today they were targeted just into their heart. Now I'm sure that there is the chaos inside the Russian military command. They don't really know what to do next, especially if they lost many of the officers. The other goal that Ukraine wants to achieve is to give the way for the commercial grain ships from Ukrainian ports, because not many companies are willing to send their ships for Ukrainian grains. Yes, there are some ships, but mainly the owners of the ships do not want to risk, so Ukraine needs to show that they eliminated the risk from the Russian military ships. That is why day by day there are some drone boats attacking the Russian ships and obviously cruise missiles. The goal number 3 that Ukraine wants to achieve is to disturb and destabilize the Russian supplies across the Black Sea, as Ukraine had already done with the oil tanker. Now some of the foreign companies also refuse to go to the Russian ports. And probably the goal number 4 is to destabilize the Russian military, to show that Ukraine is capable to down the Russian ships and even the headquarters of the Black Sea Marine Fleet without having the fleet itself. This war totally changes the way we understand the sea fleet. By the way, these tactics also might be used by Taiwan in case of China invasion attempt. We may see that the cruise missiles and other types of missiles are very effective against the ships. Russia again decided to revenge by hitting Odessa ports and the southern part of Ukraine with their drones and cruise missiles. According to some of the Western media resources, finally, White House decided to supply ATACMS missiles to Ukraine, but just few of them, as they say, the small number of ATACMS. The reason for the small number is because the United States of America doesn't have lots of those missiles. Unfortunately, they have to produce them. Plus, according to the unconfirmed information, we're gonna receive the missiles with cluster munition warhead. From one side, it is good because it is effective even against the armored vehicles and tanks. From the other side, those cluster warheads are useless against the supply lines that Russia uses to get to Crimea. I mean the Kerch Bridge. Well, anyways, it's just the start and the news are fantastic. Finally. Yes, President Biden hasn't said it officially yet for this hour, but I'm sure that he made the decision to supply those missiles since this information leaked to the media resources. And now it's time for Germany to supply Taurus cruise missiles for Ukraine. This picture illustrates the potential range of the ATACMS missiles if Ukraine uses them from the edge of the controlled territory, so all of the Crimea is covered, plus many of the Russian military bases which they use to attack the Ukrainian territory. Now let's review the frontline changes because there are some. So Ukrainian army moves towards Novoprokopivka, even though Russia deployed 10,000 paratroopers somewhere in this area. Let me zoom out a little and let's show you the timeline. It was yesterday and it is today. The Ukrainian army moves forward every day, and I guess we are already in Novoprokopivka in this street. Yes, I understand that it is the gray area, but it means that there is some fighting and our guys are over there. On the north near to Novopokrovka, over here there is also the change, and let's see it. It was yesterday, it is today. Ukrainian army expands the bridgehead to avoid the risk of being encircled by the Russian army from both of the sides, and only after that Ukrainian army will continue the push towards Verbova and Novoprokopivka and more to the south. If we check the Russian defense lines, here you may see that Ukraine broke through them and now there is intermediate defense line near to Verbova. I think now it's more easier for Ukraine to take this village under control. The Institute of the Study of War confirms that the Ukrainian army was able to break through the Russian defense lines, the Surovikin first line, and is able to take Verbova under control. Unfortunately, we have the bad news from Verbova village. Our counterattack was stopped by the Russian artillery and mines. Ukraine lost motor vehicles. At least one was recorded on the Russian drone camera and published on the Russian RT propaganda TV. Still, I'm out of the information whether this location is truly close to Verbova or not, but from what I understand, the motor vehicles are being used on the south front lines. Let's go to the Bakhmut area, the village of Klishivka that was liberated not long time ago. So we have the change. Ukrainian army pushes Russia behind this railway. This railway is built on some sort of the elevation, and just behind it we can see the natural trench with the river and this lake that Russia also uses as the natural obstacle for them to secure their positions. But here they're on the lower ground, so maybe it would be easier for Ukrainian army to assault towards those places. However, Russia may also use those tree lines and the streets for their defense. The updated situation in Luhansk Oblast near to Novoyegorivka, Russia tried their counterattack over there but was pushed back by Ukrainian defenders. So we have just the front lines update, the clarification of military map, definitely. Alright, we have some issues with Leopard 1 tanks. Denmark says that they tried to deliver around 20 of those tanks, but after the Ukrainian inspection it appeared that 12 from 20 of the tanks were out of the proper condition. They had severe defects, so Ukrainian army didn't accept them. That is why those tanks were sent for repairs. The Leopard 1 is quite an old tank, and we have the information that some of the countries got them from their museums, because there they were in a better condition than in the storages. As for the international news, there are still some of the protests in Armenia, mainly in Yerevan. By the way, today Russia lost the second car with peacekeepers. This time, as it was reported, Armenians attacked their vehicle. Well, my opinion that protests will not help to solve the situation in Nagorno-Karabakh. It's already the closed case, and Russia betrayed Armenia for sure, because they're in one military alliance. In October, the European Commission will recommend to start the negotiations on Ukraine's accession to the European Union. The process for Ukraine to join the European Union will take at least 10 years. That procedure will not be accelerated for Ukraine. Probably the only profit I see for Ukraine is that the bureaucratic institutions of the European Union might get rid of corruption in Ukraine in some certain way, because definitely bureaucracy fights the corruption. Well, anyways, if majority of Ukrainians do support joining the European Union, I would also support. My friends, don't forget to press the like to this video, and also please check out my personal link in the video description just below, where you may subscribe for the ground news, the platform that I always use to stay updated on the situation in Ukraine, and not only. Guys, I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time.